Hi, welcome to the Brickfilmers Guild podcast, hosted by us, the Four Monkeys. On this podcast, we had the extreme pleasure of chatting with Gareth Pugh, known for his YouTube channel called spugesdu. Gareth started making films at the age of 14 in 2006. Making brick films was his initial mode of filmmaking and telling stories. His active years of brick filming were from 2006 to 2010, where his Star Wars-themed brick films helped him garner a sizable following on YouTube with over 13 million views. 4 of his brick films have over 1 million views each. Gareth currently works as a freelance video editor and videographer. If you guys want some great tips for brick filming, there are 2 books that are absolutely sure to help. Please check out Brick Flicks by Sarah Herman and the Lego Animation Book by David Pagano and David Pickett. Links to these books can be found on the Brickfilmers Guild homepage. If you enjoy listening to these podcasts, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We'd love it if you would support us there, but either way, our podcast will always be available for free. So, without further ado, here's our conversation with Gareth. Good afternoon, Gareth. Thank you so much for joining us today.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
We have been dear friends for so long. We're really excited about this chat. We can just have a good old chin wag and maybe throw in some brick filming or whatever else happens to come up.
Yeah, this doesn't really feel like an official podcast type thing. This just feels like we're just chatting.
I know.
Well, we're hoping to try to do that.
In fact, it's kind of like the good old YouTube days, remember? We just have, oh my gosh, endless messages on there. I wish I could go back and read all those.
I wonder if there's a way to do that. I'd love to do that.
I would love to do that as well.
How far can you go back on channel comments?
Because that would have to go back a long time. Yeah, I mean, it would take a very long time to get all of those, but brilliant. It would be a fun read.
So you started your channel in, 2007? So you've had a 10-year anniversary, right?
Well, I had a 10-year anniversary of my first video upload. Mm-hmm. I tell you what, I didn't actually set up my channel.
Ah.
I nicked it from my dad. spugesdu was my dad's YouTube account. And I never chose the name, but it was just I was too young to set up my own account, and it was already there. So I just used my dad's.
Oh,
he wasn't too happy about it at first, but he kind of relented after a while.
How did he come up with the name?
SPUG is Simon. SPUG. PUG is Pugh, and Esdu was the company he was working for at the time.
Very interesting. Now, did he have things on there that you had to delete because you didn't want them on your account?
No, absolutely nothing. It was completely clean.
Ah.
So he never used it once.
Well, he should have been happy that you took it over then. Look what you've done with it.
Well, I think he was a bit peeved because he still used that name spugesdu at work for like his work login, and so I think he was concerned that some of his co-workers would find my YouTube account and say, well, Simon, why are you doing these videos? You know,
like, don't you ever work? Don't you have anything else you could do?
Exactly.
Nice that you have so much time on your hands to do these Lego videos, right?
Yeah, you're fired.
So I believe on the Frame 100 podcast, you mentioned no one really inspired you to make the Lego films. That was just, you kind of, saw that there was an opportunity with doing Lego, I guess Clone Wars and whatnot. How did you put the 2 and 2 together and decide to actually do stop motion?
Well, the first time I actually did stop motion, it was with a friend of mine from school, my friend from school, Alex, and you know what? At the time, I said I didn't have any inspiration, but then I remember there was this one video we watched before we started making our own, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was a Lego Star Wars short comedy video. I'm sure somebody out there would remember what it's called. I might even remember before the end of this podcast, but it was I remember we just watched it on YouTube, and it was the best thing ever, basically. And we decided to make our own little stop motions with our Lego Star Wars sets that we both had. And we were big fans of the game Empire at War, Star Wars Empire at War at the time. And we'd make these tiny little X-Wings and Y-Wings and Star Destroyers. And we would kind of make them do little space battles against a black background. And but Juggernaut, the first video that's on my channel, so that just had the 10-year anniversary for that. That was back in February. That was the first Lego Star Wars video I made by myself.
And that was an amazing first video. I mean, for your first attempt, really.
You even had explosions and everything in it,
which were really cool. Yeah. Now it has over 218,000 views.
Not bad for a first try.
Absolutely.
A lot better than our first try.
That's for sure.
I'm quite proud of that video. It's garbage by today's standards, by what people are doing today, but I'll always have a lot of love in my heart for that video.
And how old were you? Maybe 13 when you made that? 14?
14.
14, okay.
Yes, it was February 2007, so I would have been 14 just, I think.
Cool. And here, I'll take this moment to put a little plug for Austin and the Frame 100 live podcast that he and his, who were...
Bricktail, which was Matt, and... Scorch, Tom.
And every Saturday at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
And
Eastern time.
you, and actually every Saturday you were their last esteemed guest on their podcast before their season finale, and I guess they will start back up in October, so everybody check them out because it's always a lot of fun. We usually get online there so that we can go in the comments and make some comments and start some trouble and, just have fun. So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that podcast and this podcast, they're the sort of things I kind of wish that had been around when, like back in the day when I was kind of making videos a bit more prolifically on YouTube, because they're such nice reflections on what the brick filming community is at the moment. They're very positive and very kind of uplifting and very focused on how to make things better. Both these podcasts, I like them both a lot.
Well, thank you. No, and I think they help brick filmers because everyone can relate. It's like, oh yeah, I have that problem, or oh, that's a great tip, and it's always nice to hear how other people do things. And
there's a couple of other podcasts that we've put on our front page or next to where our podcasts are on the front page of the BFG. There's one by DK Films, Dark Knight Films. He does one, and there's another one by a couple Australian guys, I think Barbecue Pictures or something like that. Also does that one. So there's a couple others out there that are pretty decent as well.
Oh, I need to look those up.
Yeah, you can find them on the Brickfilmers Guild homepage. If you go down to where it says the BFG podcast, it'll be another one, a blog next to it that has all the podcasts from members. So if there's any members out there that have a podcast besides the four, those three and ours, let us know.
Oh, and also if anybody can think...
Sorry, you carry on.
I'm a female. I always interrupt. It's a bad habit.
I think I interrupted you there.
I was just going to say, going back to when we first started, if anybody does know the name of that comedy Lego
sure it wasn't
thing that you watched.
Han Solo Affair?
Put it in the comments.
It wasn't a Han Solo Affair.
Okay.
All right.
But that's another
awesome
cracker
one.
from the past. That was awesome.
Spite your face.
So if we don't think about it, put it in the comments. Let us know, and that'd be cool to check that out.
So then you moved on to started to make your Squad 42s.
Woohoo!
And in the beginning, you didn't use at least in the first one, you didn't use dialogue. You actually put what they were saying on the screen.
Yes.
Do you have any clean copies of that without writing on the screen?
I don't. Really wish I did, but it was back when I had no respect at all for backing up files. That's something that's come with time.
Yeah,
I tell you what, I've got the original photographs for for Squad 42 2, I think, and 3, and from there. But the original, all I've got is the YouTube copy.
Okay.
At least you have that. No.
And then in the second one, you put voices in, and that's when you started using the high voices,
Which was really adorable. I must
it
say.
actually adds charm to it.
Yeah, it really does.
How and why did you do that?
Basically, it was because, well, I would have been still 14 at the time, and it was because I was embarrassed about any of my friends at school finding out about the videos, and I didn't want them to hear my actual voice. Yeah, I think I don't know if I would make the same decision to do it with the high voices today, but I'm actually kind of in. I've got to make that decision at the moment about a film I'm working on at the moment. But yeah, it was basically just a vanity thing. I didn't want people to know who I was. But it's kind of again, I've got a soft spot in my heart for why I did that.
Absolutely. No, I love hearing that. Even still, it puts a smile on your face, and it really is adorable.
Yeah. Well, they're only an inch high. They would have very squeaky voices.
They would. So it does make sense.
Exactly.
So then I guess you made your Squad 42 Part 3, The Final Order. And one of the things I kind of noticed in that is there was a lot of vehicles destroyed. Was it a big effort to build all those back after you destroyed all the vehicles?
You know what? I think I destroyed them in a way that I'd find it easy to put them back together again.
Okay.
The big thing for me with that video was that I destroyed an old version of the Trade Federation MTT. You know, that big brown tank thing from Phantom Menace. Mm-hmm. So that one gets completely destroyed in that video, and the reason I did that was because I got my hands on the new version, and I remember because I was so pleased with it at the time, and I think part of the reason why that video started to get quite a few views was because it was the first brick film on YouTube to use that Lego set, or at least for the first one that I was aware of. And I think a lot of the early comments were like, "Oh my God, you got the new MTT? How'd you get that?"
I love your American accent. That's great.
And it was actually because I was in America on holiday. I was in Chicago, and they had one copy of it in a Walmart that we went to. It's like for British people, going to a Walmart is like tourism because we don't have anything like Walmart in Britain. So we went to this Walmart, and I found this Lego set that was by sort of currency standards much cheaper than it would have been in England as well.
Oh,
and I used it, and I think I turned out that Squad 42 episode in about a week after I came back from holiday because I was so desperate to have it in my film.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've got a small box full of sets I haven't put back together after rearranging or destroying them. One was from the Grand Theft Auto video I made. It was an ambulance that I need to repair. I've just been too lazy to repair. And then recently, the Batman for Rebrick, I destroyed the Batmobile, and I just haven't bothered putting it back together.
And for the record, Walmart does have a lot of great deals on Lego. Sometimes you can get them on clearance. Like if the boxes get destroyed, you get amazing deals. If you're lucky, you get this like, oh my God, I have to get that. Even if I don't need it, I have to get it just because it's so cheap. So when you come visit, we'll go to Walmart and we'll have a lot of fun.
Brilliant. I'll bring a giant suitcase and
Please
just fill it up.
Yeah, we've also got 3 Lego stores in the area too.
Well, you need the big suitcase. You fill it up with lion bars to come here, and then you can go back with Lego sets.
See, the way I imagine Lego stores in America, that they're just like drugstores. You just have them all over the place. They're quite hard to
actually
find
not.
here.
They're in the malls.
But they're
Okay.
not. Well, I guess they are in most of the malls around now, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, there's just the 3 here, and one of them's like a Lego Land type thing. That's the mall that's in
Downtown
area, and I don't even think the Lego store is good there. But they make you pay for when you pick a brick or whatever, you get them off the shelf. It's per weight instead of container. And I was like, I don't need them that much. I'll go to the other stores.
Yeah, it seems a bit much.
And
Yeah.
speaking of Lion Bars, I have to give a plug to Lion Bars, which is my most favorite chocolate bar in the entire world. And any English person that has not had a Lion Bar, stop what you're doing. Well, wait, don't listen to the end of the podcast. Then go and find a Lion Bar and tell me it's not the most brilliant thing you've ever put in your mouth, ever. I mean,
Did I send you a Lion Bar egg this year?
You did. Thank you so much. Now my lion has a
She
friend.
gives me a baby nibble and keeps the rest herself.
Seriously, baby, because he just doesn't love it like I do, and it's just too rare and too fabulous. If you don't absolutely love it, you just can't have it. And so now I have 2 of these adorable lion boxes that are next to each other on top of our fridge. So I look at them every day. They're friends, and they're very happy.
Oh, bless. Well, I'm glad I can bring joy into your life.
You do. Love you for that. Thank you. Among other reasons, of course. All right.
I'm going to say people listening won't have a clue what we're talking about.
Well, a lot of the Americans won't, and the English people that don't, you must. I mean, it's a must. I need to keep that company going because I at least my aunt used to have a really hard time finding them, which means, I'd be crushed if they ever stopped making them. I really would.
I should have bought one for this recording session.
Yeah, I'd say, oh, guess what I'm crunching on? My mouth is watering just thinking about it anyway.
So then you went on and made a few, I guess, the Rebellion. I guess you could call it a trilogy. There's 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
And that was set during the Civil War, I guess, Rebellion part, right?
Yes.
Okay. Trying to think. There was one shot in Rebellion 1 that really stood out to me, and I loved it.
The Curse of Battle.
The Curse of the Battle. It was when the missile was shot, and you follow the missile down to the ground.
Oh yeah, that was
cool.
Beautiful.
That was the money shot.
It was. It definitely was.
Yeah, that really worked out. I like that there.
I was so pleased with that because it was such a simple effect as well. Because basically, I had this rocket booster effect in. I was using Particle Illusion. Was the visual effects software I was on at the time, and is what I was using for everything past from that first Rebellion film, everything after that. And it had this rocket booster effect, but it was really hard to get to kind of to shoot it in motion, if that makes sense. You could have it static on the screen. But as soon as you tried to move it, it would just look completely fake. So what I did, that rocket is literally just stuck to the camera with blue tack with a Lego Technic axle, and then I just obscured the axle with that rocket booster effect. It's something I want to try again in another film at some point because I thought it looked pretty cool.
Wow, what a great idea.
Yeah.
That is a neat behind the scenes right there. I love that.
Yeah, that's the shot that really stood out for me, and I dug that. And then the second one, I think
Rebellion 2
Consequences. I think there was a shot of them all just running into the base or driving their ships into the base where the door opens up, and that was
and then
pretty
it closes
cool.
Back after, yeah, that was really cool.
And then Rebellion 3, I liked when the Millennium Falcon took off. I thought that was pretty cool.
I used to wire up all the bigger Lego sets with fishing wire, and I sort of built a kind of puppet rig to carry them. But of course, I did because it was stop motion. You could still it was very hard to position them. But I think I did that in Squad 42-5 as well, with the at the end a Republic gunship flies in with my fishing wire puppet rig.
Wow, do you take any pictures of that?
I think I've still got the original photos somewhere.
Because that would be really neat to see.
I should dig it all out, do a proper HD remaster or something.
Did you put in some like the engine blue kind of engine effect on that Millennium Falcon when it took off in post?
Oh gosh, I think I did.
Okay, it just had to look like the engines were actually on and firing.
Right.
Yeah, I did a little sort of glow effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, it's been a while since I've seen Rebellion 3, actually.
Oh, you should watch it. It's wonderful.
It was a little easier to get through all your stuff compared to Mini Life TV. They had 9 hours of videos to watch.
Oh, good grief.
And
I think mine... What's mine, about 25 minutes?
No, you probably have about an hour or so. But yeah, if you do get around to it and have 9 hours to kill, it's worth watching the Mini Life TV entire series, all of 5 seasons or whatever. It's funny, it's well done, and the characters are just the best. But no need to plug him anymore. Damn.
Everybody loves them.
There's so many great. Brick filmers these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you did also did some sort of Indiana Jones Temple of Steam. That was more of a mock that you made that you just kind of put to motion. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that was when I was on. There was a forum that I frequented quite a lot called the Clone Army Builders Guild, the Cabbage as they called it. And it was, I think it was just a mock that I put on there, and I sort of had this idea of this mouth on the temple opening and then steam kind of pouring out. I didn't just want to do it in photographs, so that really was just like, that was for a blog post almost.
Did a whole bunch of people ask you when it's coming out?
Yes.
That's funny. That's funny. And then
I think I put at the end, it said like coming soon.
Yeah.
Never.
We did that with one of ours too. It's always really funny to do that.
Yeah,
we can't wait to see this.
It's like, no, this is just a trailer that's never going to go any further than this.
A trailer for nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Then you made somewhere in that time you made Squad 42 4 and 5, but you also went back and those were with the high voices the first time, if I'm not incorrect. And then you brought in other voicing for the 4th and 5th one. I was in the 4th one, and you replaced me, and good doing so, because the guys in the 5th one did a better job as the clone than I did. But
sorry, Dave. Well, that was only for the remastered
version
edition. But the originals that went up in 2009, I want to say. They what might have been 2008. They had the squeaky voices as well.
But that has 2.6 million views. The Squad 42 4.
Yeah, that was Squad 4 and I think 5 was the one that YouTube actually featured on the homepage.
Oh wow,
sweet.
That's awesome.
But I think 4 it was really quite sort of shocking for me at the time, because for a while, if you typed in Lego Star Wars, Squad 42 4 for the longest time was the first video that would come up for a lot of people, and I think that's why it's got so many views. But it's always had a good response as well.
Well, deservingly so, of course.
And some of the scenes from number 4, No Alternative, that I liked was the bridge getting blown away. That was a really cool shot.
You know why I did that? It was purely because I built the set and I started filming before it even clicked that the MTT that blows it up wouldn't be able to fit underneath it.
That sounds like a happy accident.
Yeah, it was kind of a happy accident by a complete idiot, because it was a total mistake in terms of just I didn't build the bridge high enough. But it's quite a good way to open the film, I thought.
Yeah. There was a certain hallway shot that you kept showing that I really liked it, kind of looking down a long hallway and they kind of go across the screen. That was a cool shot that stood out for me.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to think. Yeah, the one where the squad running through it.
Yeah, I think so. It worked for me. It just had a neat composition to it that I liked.
Thank you. I've always had this. I've always liked doing cinematography where the camera is kind of close to the ground. It's something I've always kind of tried to do with. It's always something I always tried to do with my Lego films, was try and keep the camera as low as possible, try and keep it at the eye level of the minifigures. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the Squad 42-4 stuff, they were on raised sets, so the camera could get down low enough, because I was using a big old DSLR for that one.
That is my complaint about the DSLRs. That's one of the things I miss about my webcam, is I could stick the camera 2 inches away from a minifigure and actually have an upshot.
Yes.
And that's my complaint about having the larger, better cameras.
Yeah. It's that kind of sacrifice for depth of field, I guess.
Yeah. Another thing that stood out was your wall building techniques you used for a lot of your backgrounds. Instead of just building a flat wall, you had certain parts that would kind of stand out from it. You'd still see the studs on like every other brick or something in it. So it gave a lot of 3D texture to the wall, but along with the lighting, it really gave a good 3D texture. And I'm sure it helped prevent, because you put a gray wall up, you get flicker and you get weird discoloration. But I like the way you broke up your wall pattern by building it a certain way.
Gave it a lot of depth. I looked at that, I was like, how did he even do that? I was looking at it, I couldn't even figure it out.
I think some of your techniques were just to build as big a wall as possible. So you kind of did ones where you could see through the wall and it was just kind of stretching out your Lego pieces. But the wall I'm talking about, it was a solid wall you couldn't see through, and it just had so much texture to it that it was a good technique.
Yeah, it's that technique of so entirely 2x4s basically, and then so one 2x4 lengthways and then another 2x4 widthways. Mm-hmm. So it kind of creates this T shape, and then just that same thing over and over and over again, and then kind of switching or changing over ever so slightly the footprint of the next layer. And I can't even remember why I did that, but I think it was, it helps reduce reflections, like massively. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it just kind of stands out a little bit from other people's.
Yeah, well. I'd never seen it before. It looked like, reminded me like a rock wall that you just wanted to climb up. It was really cool.
Yeah, well, it probably wouldn't be very good in an actual sort of war situation because the enemy would just be able to climb over it. But
true.
It looked cool.
I'm gonna have to use it. A lot of times, I'll do a shot, and if it's just a flat wall, and if it's just gray or something like that, you get weird issues when you try to do that.
Well, because I always tried to build those walls as big as I possibly could as well. And the only reason I could do that was I went to it might have even been Legoland Windsor, and they had a special offer on 2x4 sand red bricks, which now you can't buy for love nor money. These sand red 2x4s, they cost about 50 pence each, so that's 70 cents. And they had a special offer on them. So I think I got like 800 of them for £50.
Wow.
At the time. As they're probably worth thousands now. I don't know, but
hold on to them though.
Most of them are kind of scuffy and have like bite marks in them, so I'm not sure they're worth too much, but you never know.
So I think it was in 2009 you were working on something you were unable to finish. I don't even know how to say the name. Is it Agatian Nights?
Oh, Agatian Nights.
Agatian Nights. Kind of what's the backstory there and why it wasn't completed? It had some really cool shots in it, and I know you definitely had some CGI planned for that, right?
Yeah, that was an odd one. That because Agatian Nights was actually it was a kind of role-playing game that was being played on the Clone Army Builders Guild that I mentioned before.
I remember that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, were you a member of that?
I don't think I was.
Yeah, well, it was a pretty good forum actually for people who had their own creations of Star Wars sets, mostly Star Wars, like 99% Star Wars, and like mocks and decals and whatever for Star Wars sets. I think Clone Army Customs. I first met him on the Clone Army Builders Guild. But there was a guy on there called Zephyr, this really smart, intelligent guy, and he ran this kind of ongoing role-playing game. It was almost like Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but he ran this game where he invented all the characters in this world in the Star Wars universe called Agitean Knights. And there were I think there were 20 odd people playing it at any one time, and it was just a case that there was the plot basically was that there was a murderer and someone was just picking off characters one by one, and it was about trying to find out who the murderer was, and it went on for months, and I think everyone who played it got really invested in it. And then after that was done, I was working with Zephyr to kind of translate it into a script. But it was way too ambitious, basically, for me, because it literally involved getting about 25 voice actors, and it would have been hundreds and hundreds of hours of animation, basically, and the whole thing, as it would have been as an end film, it would have been about an hour long as well, and I don't know what I was thinking, quite frankly.
It would have been really interesting, though. I mean, that just sounds amazing, and it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm sorry I missed out on that.
I think it would have worked as like a comic or something, or like a photographic comic maybe. But the way I was doing it, I was trying to do it as, whole scenes where there were 10, 15 people talking to each other. And then I think the point at which it really started to fall apart was when I really struggled to get people to fill the voice acting roles, because I asked a lot of people I knew to do lines for it, and I think in the end, like 2 or 3 people managed to get back to me within the first month, and I just kind of realized I can't animate this unless I have all the voice actors, and the voice actor, it just wasn't happening.
Ooh, and that would be an editing nightmare as well, having to edit all those voices as well.
Yeah, and I was only 16, I think, at the time as well. So it was quite. I'm not blaming anybody, by the way. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone.
Well, an hour-long brick film is pretty ambitious.
Oh yeah.
But it was. I'm glad I tried it, because it was sort of my first foray into green screening and CGI and stuff. It was about the same time that I started doing that. So it was a useful learning curve, I think. But yeah, it was a shame it sort of fell apart.
More of a shame I didn't get involved in it, because it really sounded like fun.
It was fun at first.
Okay. So wait, did it ever conclude? Did you ever find out who the murderer was? No, I'm just curious now.
Yes. Yeah, no, the game concluded. I can't remember. It might have been me.
Oh, were you sleepwalking and murdered people and you didn't even remember, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing how these things kind of slip the mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always forget when I murder people, too. It's okay.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
It is.
It was 8 years ago.
It's been a while, because your main time basically as an active brick filmer, I guess, was sort of 2006 to 2010.
Yeah, about that. And then I kind of tried and failed to make Squad 42-6 for several years, and then I finished YouTube. Or at least, I went on a very long hiatus.
And sometimes it's really important to do that. Well, for a lot of people.
Yes.
We take a little bit of a backwards approach. Kind of brick filming was the end all be all for what we were doing, but for a lot of people, starting off young, just doing the brick films was what was available. They want to move on to making legitimate, real productions, live action and whatnot, and get into the industry. So it's a wonderful stepping stone for wannabe filmers to get into the industry. So
Yeah, it's very gratifying to see how many people who were just kind of kids making brick films at the same time that I was, who are now actually going on and putting their films in festivals and really, I mean, people like Forrest, obviously, who he was in my mind, he was always like the most popular, but deservedly so. I think he's a real nice guy. His videos are genuinely really funny and really well animated.
Right, and they always have been.
More and more so. And they always have been. He's managed to maintain this quality for a decade now, which is just pretty extraordinary. And then you got people like Bionicle 28, who I thought it was very sweet that they gave me a shout out in their podcast, because I've always kind of looked at their videos and thought the same. It's like, oh, this is what I want to aspire to be like, because their videos were fantastic.
And they've been doing some neat work with Tonga lately. I think they had a video came out today about school starting and people on a beach, and then a school kind of gets made out of bricks and whatnot. They've been doing a lot of Tonga work lately.
Yeah, all fantastic work.
And their Yellow Submarine, oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Yeah, and they've just got such an eye for kind of, their videos have so much like dynamism and just charisma, and they just kind of, you can tell there's so much love put into every frame.
Definitely.
Of their videos. Same with Forrest as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just a creative genius. I mean, has been ever since he started.
Yeah,
he's just got it,
I fear a day when he's going to basically stop making brick films, because he's going to be making big budget films. He's 20. He's 23, and he's right in the right place. And I imagine by the time he's 40, he's probably going to have a block, maybe not a blockbuster, but a feature film under his belt.
I honestly don't doubt it. I think he's well on his way there.
He'll have his name on the Hollywood. What is it?
Quite possibly. Another person that hasn't made any brick films in years. Some kid, I think it's Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Hubble or whatever.
Well, I think he's more into.
He's now moved out of brick filming, and he made some great brick films back 6, 7, 8 years ago or whatever. But now he's out in Hollywood, and I think he recently posted a picture with a Steadicam and stuff like that. So he's in the industry and whatnot. That's
awesome. I mean, it's a really good place to start, I think, brick filming, because you immediately get that, or at least my experience as it was there's that community that's there. You have to learn to work with other people, which is really important. It's a really good foundation as a kid to kind of explore what you enjoy about filmmaking, what you don't enjoy, and then kind of just building on that. Even if you've only ever done brick films, that's not to say that that's all you can ever do, because there's so much that you can learn in brick films that can be translated across to basically any other medium of film. And I think that's kind of proving itself. I mean, that Something Ori Productions, they're not just making brick films anymore. They had that really beautiful little animation that's been doing fantastically well on the festival circuit, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you were saying about Some Kid, and I think it's a really strong foundation. I really hope, and that's why, again, this comes back to why I love this podcast, and why I really like the Frame 101 podcast by Frame 100 podcast by Austin and the guys. It's this really positive way of encouraging each other to make stuff. I love it. I love it.
I agree. Yeah, and imagination. I love what Forrest said. It's like, it's where you can do whatever you want to do. You can pit Marvel against DC because you can,
Yes.
whatever you imagine, you can just create yourself. And I love that.
Exactly. The only limit is copyright strikes.
Right. Yeah, that.
We'll get there.
But it's not your imagination.
True. Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Brickfilmers fly under the radar, and the rest it's fan fiction, so they kind of just let it fly as long as you're not making money off of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Squad 42, they've never been taken down. They're full of John Williams music.
Now, did those get demonetized because of the music, and they're putting other people's ads on there?
They were never monetized in the first place.
Okay, so that's why they allow. We have one of ours that was not monetized because we used a little bit of John Williams music. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice that they still let you use it, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I didn't.
Absolutely.
An orchestra spent a lot of money recording that.
Yeah.
I didn't pay a penny for it, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you redid 4 and 5, did you put your own music in there?
I did for No Alternative, so 4. That was my own composition, which people seem to like that a lot. A lot of people still ask me what's in that sort of slightly odd YouTube-y comment sort of way. What's the soundtrack? And every time I have to say, it's like, well, I just made it on GarageBand.
Oh, wow.
What did you do? What did you use?
GarageBand.
Oh, GarageBand. Sorry, missed that.
Yeah, GarageBand. And it was...
GarageBand, that's why.
Oh, yes. Like,
You're the one that should get the English accent.
I do, but it's Garage. It sounded like Gareth, Gareth Band, GarageBand. Yes, I know.
True, your roots.
I need more coffee.
Gareth's GarageBand.
Gareth's GarageBand, there.
Yeah, cool.
You call me Gareth. But then I used mostly Doctor Who music for the remaster of Squad 42.5. It kind of fitted.
Mm-hmm.
It's got pretty good soundtrack. The new Who, as it's called.
The female. Are you watching that?
Sorry, which one?
The female. Isn't there a new female Doctor Who now?
Oh yeah, well she takes over next year.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine. I'm down with that.
Okay.
It's all good for me. I think that show, without getting off on too much of a tangent, I think that show is all about change. The entire show is about change. It's been on telly for 55 years now, I think.
Wow.
Nearly 60 years, and the world has changed so much in that time, and the Doctor has changed so much in that time. It's
True.
like changing, going from a man to a woman. As long as it's handled well. My only concern is that suddenly they'll try and sexualize the character in some way. And it's like, that's not what that character should be about at all.
I agree.
So, but another thing that character isn't about is, sexism. So I think it's a great choice. I mean, she's a fantastic actor as well, Jodie Whittaker. She's in a show on BBC One at the moment called Trust Me, and she's just fantastic in it. So I'm really down for it.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be well received.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
I think most people have received her well anyway. It's just this kind of this horrible, loud minority that seems to permeate through the internet at the moment.
Right. Well, when you have people, and I would have to say that I'm guilty of not liking change, and that's that's a pretty massive change. So, not that I wouldn't be down with watching it, though.
They changed on what was it, Battlestar Galactica, Starbuck from a man to a woman, and it worked. Right. At first, I was like, really, and then I was like, okay, this works, but because it was because of her character and how they kept her pretty, tough and right. So it worked. No Dirk Benedict, but,
Do you guys get the Great British Bake Off over there?
I think we do. I haven't. I should really record that. I'm pretty sure we have it here, and I'll need to do that. Worth watching?
Yeah, you know what? It's like a national institution over here now. It's something that everybody sits down and watches on the Tuesday night.
So they stopped watching the car show.
Oh, what, Top Gear?
Yeah, Top Gear. That was pretty popular a while back before the guys got canned.
Yeah, well, Jeremy Clarkson left, and he was replaced by Chris Evans, and Chris Evans just tanked on it. But now it's presented by Matt LeBlanc.
Oh. Okay.
And he actually does a really great job.
Huh.
It's good. It had a series where it was awful, and now it's actually pretty good again.
Okay.
And there was this other show that I remember, and I think it was just, I had friends that watched it, so I saw them. I see things coming up where some, all these English people are sitting at this table together and they're all eating. So it might be some kind of reality thing, but they really get angry with each other and what show is that? That's not.
Is that Come Dine With Me?
It must be that.
It might be that.
and they got really rude with each other and.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
I mean, that is like trash TV, but it is funny. It's really funny sometimes.
Hey, it's important to watch some trash TV sometimes,
Absolutely.
We've got our trash TV.
Look at other people's problems. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Cleansing for the soul.
And besides, watching English people fight and is much more entertaining for me. So it just sounds more polite as well.
Much more passive aggressive than Americans are. Yeah.
Everything sounds so much more proper and okay with an English accent. Even the most vile things just sound completely proper with an English accent.
I think swearing sounds pretty good with an English accent.
It
depending on the accent and the words, I think.
I mean, anything is just more elegant. Oh, excuse me, I've just farted. It sounds okay to do that. But if an American says, "Oh, you just farted," it's like, oh, how rude.
So rude. How dare you? Outrageous.
So I guess back on topic, I guess.
Back on topic, yes.
The last, I think, stop motion I saw on your channel might have been The Emperor's Mistake. Was that the last time you've done animation or stop motion animation?
I think that's the last time I released a stop motion animation.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really did try and make Squad 42.6 for a long time. I think I did release a lot of footage from Squad 42.6 I'm pretty sure I shot it after The Emperor's Mistake.
Okay. I can only remember the CGI stuff, but...
Sure. Yeah, there's quite a bit of stop motion in that final video I released of Squad 42.6 unused footage.
Okay.
I think that was the last time I did stop motion. I must have done something since then, but I don't know. I don't really know why I stopped. I think it was a case of being a kind of moody teenager was a lot of it. Being at college and then university. It kind of ran out of time to do it and ran out of the motivation to do it. And I think a lot of that came from, I guess, there was a bit of online nastiness.
Really?
Around...
Ooh, shocker.
Yeah, shocker. What, nastiness on YouTube?
Never.
Unheard of. Never. And sort of other forum websites which I shan't name. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a sort of slightly negative atmosphere. I say slightly, I mean very. And I kind of I lost the will to do it, basically, to finish it, because there was far more negative correspondence on it than there was positive. So yeah, I just went and got a proper job and then went to university.
Yeah. And you mentioned this on the Frame 100 podcast, how you got into doing CGI, but I think it's a great story. I guess your internship or whatnot, if you don't mind repeating it here, how you got into doing CGI.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I was at secondary school, at the time, which I'm not sure how that translates to in American high school years. But I was 16 at the time, and we needed to do a work experience as part of sort of that year. We needed to do 2 weeks work experience, and I was struggling to find anything, but I just finished Squad 42-5 at the time, and I managed to get a place at this local graphic design agency where they did a lot of sort of advertising. They did animation for advertising and still graphics and motion graphics and things like that for billboards and whatever. And they were lovely. They were really lovely. Shout out to Bowcroft in Surrey. They were just delightful, but they hadn't had an intern before, and they didn't know what to do with me, basically. So they sat me at a computer and they said, "What would you like to do?" And in the 2 weeks that I was there, they helped me to design and animate a new version of the Gareth Pugh Picture Productions Hollywood logo. That sort of Hollywood Hills sign that was always my logo at the start of all my Lego films.
I have it on my T-shirt. Yes, I have one of your T-shirts, and it's on there.
Do you really? Oh my goodness! Oh, I don't even have one of those. I need to get one printed. And after the 2 weeks was up, they basically said, "Look, you've been really nice to have here. We don't mind you sticking around if you just want to use this computer. No one else is using it." I ended up being there for something like 5 or 6 months. I was there for in the end.
Wow.
Just using this old Mac Pro they had in the office that was disused by everyone else. Just working in computer animation software, and the guy there, Marcel, he was just the loveliest guy. And he was so generous with his time and his knowledge, and yeah, I started picking up a lot of stuff there, and then I managed to get and this is a good tip for any young people who want to get into computer animation. Always look for student discounts. Good Lord. You can get enormous student discounts on CGI software. The one that I use is called Cinema 4D, and I think the student discount is something like 93% off.
Wow. Okay, that's worth it totally.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I spent £150 on it, because things to buy it normally it's close to £3,000.
Wow.
So I spent £150.
Huge tip, people. Wow. Huge tip.
Yeah. And as long as you've got student ID, if you've got been at college or at university, that's all you need. Just a student ID card. And it can save enormous amounts of money to do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my student ID ran out last year, so I had to actually pay for the full software, which kind of set my finances back for about half a year. But worth it for me, because it's now my full-time job, essentially.
Cool.
Well,
and that all kind of stemmed from that 2 weeks work experience.
So you're currently, I guess, doing some, CGI animation or images, and you're also doing editing. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, editing is, I guess, the role I want to get into in the film industry. That's my aim. I want to work in the film industry itself, like actually making narrative films or documentaries or something like that. Animation is how I pay the bills. I'm a freelance filmmaker at the moment, freelance animator. I do a lot of advertising work and sort of online tutorials and things mostly for local companies. Where I live, I'm near London, but it's sort of, I'm about 30 miles south of London, so there's work here. It's not the best work, but it's decent work. But last year I edited a short film called Trigger. And that was a really good experience for me. I worked quite closely with the director. Her name's Melanie Poole, and she was actually one of my tutors at university.
Oh, isn't that funny? Wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
And while I was at university, she was kind of an admirer of the films I was making while I was there, and she dug my style, I guess, my editing style, and ended up working quite closely with her on the whole production of the film. We did a crowdfunding campaign, and then I was there on set doing. As one of the technicians and looking after all the camera footage, and I was there with my laptop and playing it back whenever the director needed it, and doing photography while I was there as well. And then I edited it, and it's been a really good experience. I mean, the film's done really rather well.
It went to the Toronto International Children's Film Festival.
It did, yeah. Played in Toronto. It won an award in Rhode Island. It's played in Hamburg and London and Galway in Ireland, which is quite prestigious these days. And it's very gratifying, and it's the biggest argument I would make for going to university. If you're thinking of doing film, and you're thinking, I don't want to do a university course, it's like, maybe that's best. But for me, personally, I made contacts at university that have been invaluable to me. I think a lot of the strengths of university are what you bring to it, and that's the argument I'd make for doing a university degree. If you feel like you can bring a lot to it, you will get a lot out of it.
Right.
Sorry, I think I went on a tangent there.
No, that was a good tangent.
No, and it obviously definitely worked for you, so that's wonderful.
Is Trigger available for us to watch, or is it still not out for public consumption yet?
It's still not out for public consumption, unfortunately. The trailer is on my website. I don't know if I should plug that.
Sure, you should.
Sure.
gpfilm.co.uk. Gareth Pugh Film, GP Film. And you can see loads of stuff I've worked on.
And we'll add that link to all the rest of the links, so that's great.
Thank you.
Now, going back to Toronto, because I enjoyed seeing all the pictures that you posted on Facebook. Any fun stories there? I know you really loved it there, that's for sure.
It was terrific, Toronto. It was it's such a lovely city, apart from anything else. And the festival, it was fantastic. It was the first time I'd really seen Trigger in front of a proper big audience. We'd seen it at a crew screening in London, and I think there were something like 20 or 30 people there, and that was good. That was good, but at the same time, it's like it's all subjective at a crew screening, whereas in Toronto we saw it with an audience of 160 school kids, and that was just a completely different experience. I mean, apart from anything else, I think American and Canadian audiences are very different to British audiences. In Britain, you stay quiet at the cinema.
That's funny. I would love to go to cinema. I don't go to cinema here because it's not quiet.
Yeah, well, exactly that. And I mean, it was fascinating. It wasn't a problem because the kids got really involved and invested in watching this film. And I went with the director, Melanie, and afterwards she did a Q&A on stage with all these 180 kids, and she got 160, and she got some really great questions that only a kid would ask, only children would ask. And it's like, and it's a children's film. It's not like a comedy or anything. It's a drama about school bullying, but it's got this kind of fantasy edge to it, and she got some really interesting questions. It's like a lot of it's very gratifying to know that when you've worked that hard on something. I mean, I worked solidly on that film for 3 months between August and November of that year, and more earlier in the year, and it having that come to fruition and actually on screen and people seeing it and engaging with it it's not like anything else, really.
Was that your first festival?
That was my first international festival.
Okay.
I went to the one in London as well. That was part of the festival as well. That was the London Short Film Festival. But hopefully it's not my last, because I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sure it won't be. Definitely not. Well, glad you had such a great experience. I'm sure I will need at least 1 box of tissues. No doubt at all.
Maybe. It's a bit of a tearjerker.
Oh, no, I definitely will.
Oh,
If not 2 boxes. Yeah.
So to dive back into CGI just for a moment here, you use Cinema 4D. What other software is out there that you know of and could potentially recommend for people wanting to do CGI or Lego CGI?
I'd say for Lego CGI, I mean, there's Blender, obviously.
Which I've played with.
Which I've got to say, personally, I don't have enormous amounts of experience on it because I started learning on Cinema 4D. After I did that work experience, I went back to Blender, and it's like, it wasn't working for me. So I then managed to get the student pass for Cinema 4D, which was good for me. But Blender is free, and I know some people who use it to do Lego CGI films that really kind of, you can do incredible stuff with Blender. It takes that little extra patience and that little extra kind of technique, but you can do really amazing stuff on there. It basically does everything that every CGI software does, but just not necessarily in the most logical way. It takes a lot of practice, Blender.
Mm-hmm.
But it's free, though, so...
Yeah. And you use what?
Free,
you gotta love
makes
the
a
free.
huge difference to a lot of people.
You use LeoCAD to get the Lego models into...
yes, LeoCAD, it's for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically like Lego Digital Designer, but you can export your models afterwards as .3ds files or not waveform. I can't remember what
Is it Lightwave?
Lightwave.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, and again, most 3D files are accepted by Blender anyway. And those two, I'd say, are kind of invaluable if you wanted to do Lego CGI. And then getting, I mean, good editing software and things as well. But that's sort of part of filmmaking more than just CGI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played around with that. I think I had a copy of Lightwave. I don't think I was able to ever get the files, the Lego models, into Lightwave. So that's why I played around with Blender a little more. And I did some cool things, but thankfully you convinced me to stick with the real models for Galactic Smugglers, and I'm glad I did that. I like doing the CGI backgrounds, but the actual models, I'm glad you convinced me not to go full digital.
Well, I love that about Galactic Smugglers. That's something I love about it. It's that kind of handmade feel to it, that of the spaceships in front of the green screens. And I think you do such a good job with it as well.
And I'm trying to get a little better. I was just bear with the dogs.
Sure.
Just some background music for your entertainment.
Singing the song of his people.
Yes.
Right, but I've done a little bit more motion, stop motion in front of the green screen, and it's. We're gonna take a second break here. We'll edit this out. I'm gonna get these dogs out of the kennel.
No, leave it in.
It is kind of funny, It's true to life. The 4 monkeys and their 2 barking dogs.
Need to update the logo.
Oh, that was actually, well, you and I can chat here. We'll leave this in. But 8 years ago today, or not today, but 8 years ago, you did our The Four Monkeys intro for our videos, which we still use and love so much.
Years ago.
I had Dave shorten it up just a little bit because people would complain that, it was taking too long to get to the video, so now we still have it, so we just shortened it a little bit.
It's like 4 seconds instead of 8 seconds.
Right, and it's just the cutest thing ever. I mean, I just don't think, obviously to me, it couldn't get any better because it just has everything that I love. It's just adorable.
How did you make that?
That was, there were, the monkey designs. They were, I think I redesigned them from, there's a Mario game called Yoshi's Island. And they're designs that are kind of that are from that, and I sort of redesigned them a little bit, and then just did that kind of that almost walk cycle loop animation, and then I put it all together in particle illusion. But I'm glad you guys still use that. Later.
Oh, I love it! I'll never want to change it because you just can't get any better than that. It's just the most adorable thing. Love it.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Obviously, you do CGI images for us in Galactic Smugglers, but besides us, who else have you done images for? I think maybe you've done some work with Forrest?
Yes, I did. I did a trailer for The Dark Knight Rises with Forrest. I gotta say, it always makes me cringe a little bit to think about that. Not working with Forrest. He was lovely. He was a really nice guy. But I remember at the time I sent him. There was kind of it was my first paid commission, and I got confused about how much me and Forrest had agreed on, and I sent him an invoice that was way too much, and he kind of sent me this very polite email back saying. Hey dude, this is not what we agreed. And I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I don't know why I said that. And I just sort of I panicked at the time. I sent him like this ridiculous invoice for like double what we'd agreed.
Oh wow.
And I'd sort of got stage fright working with Forrest. And I think my dad had said, charge him more, because my dad's always like that. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Again, that's kind of something I've learned from. But apart from that, I did. Oh gosh, I feel like I've done quite a lot. I did the Solitary series with Darth Milo.
All right.
And I love Darth Milo. His videos are great.
Agreed.
That was my favourite of his series as well. So I did that with Milo, and I also I actually did some work for Lego Boy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
9, 10, 11, 12. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That was for a Halo video, I would say. I can't really remember what it was I did with David. I was quite grateful for it, though, and I think the video did all right.
Didn't you guys have like a love-hate relationship?
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, there were long periods where I think, to be honest, I think I couldn't stand him more than he couldn't stand me. He actually he's always been a nice guy, David. But I think there was this kind of period where it was super cool to hate on Lego Boy.
Right.
And I fell into that, and I'm a little ashamed to say so, but...
I don't think we ever had a problem with it, but I think he had a problem with us. I think a lot of people had a problem with us just because we were adults doing these things that a lot of young people were doing, and I think that's all I can think of. I don't know. It's not like we were ever mean to anybody, so I don't know. Haters gonna hate, right?
Haters gonna hate. What can you do about it? Nothing, so just ignore them.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm actually gonna go back to Galactic Smugglers because I will forever be grateful to you for taking over the role of Doc, saving Doc, and saving me the most humiliating time of my life. I cringe watching the first 3 episodes. I don't know what I was thinking. I voice doc. That was so, I can't even watch them. I just can't.
Well, maybe if we just cut your hand off, you'll start sounding like Gareth.
Yeah, I don't want to try that.
Maybe it's the beard. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but you totally made Doc. After that, it was like, you're an incredible actor. I love hearing what you bring to that character. You've just completely made him, and I love it.
Oh, that's very sweet. I mean, I think a lot of it comes from you guys. You guys write good dialogue for him. It's very easy to work with what you give me. Is the thing. And you've always been very nice about letting me kind of improvise a bit as well.
Well, because you always improve it. You say it in a way I'm like, oh, of course, that's how it should sound. Why didn't we think of that? So, I mean, no, you totally make that character.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's always a delight. You know, I love your Galactic Smugglers series. I feel like I'm always asking you, like, when's the next one out? When's the next one out? I want to do more lines, you know?
Oh, well, I mean, you're under contract with us forever, so,
I hope so.
Well, you are. I have it in writing.
It's longer than the Scientologist contract. It's a billion years plus 1 day.
Have I signed over all my Squad 42 videos after I die?
No, we let you keep those.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have a favorite episode that you liked? Something that just stuck out?
Galactic Smugglers?
Yeah.
I was always a big fan. I can't remember which. I think it's episode 6 or 7 where they have the big space battle.
Art of War. Okay.
The Art of War.
Yeah, I need to do another one of those where it's a big space battle.
Yeah, I really liked your most recent episode as well.
That was fun, and I'm not sure where to go from there.
That was the chatty episode.
That was a chatty. And I normally, I'm trying to get to where I do animation after I get lines. So fortunately, I had your lines first. A few of the other parts, I had to just put my own voice in just to try to get a feel for the timing. But because I had your lines probably for 2 or 3 years before I used them. But I was able to do some neat stuff in the bar scene where I think you lean over and sort of whisper. Doc leans over and whispers, and it motivated me to animate it a certain way, and I need to get in the habit of always getting my lines first. It's just sometimes with schedule and whatnot, you're like, okay, if I get it close, it's fine. Yeah,
your lines were my favorite. That whole bar scene was funny, and the badger's bum and all that. I mean, it's just hilarious.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go in episode 10. I've sort of gotten the skeleton of it written, but I might push that off to 11 and put something else in 10 because I have some opportunities to take the script in some weird places, either like
go from low places to weird places.
Low places to weird places.
Well, that's what I've always loved about it. Is like how each episode is like its own thing. That's something. It's something you see in all the best sort of long-running TV shows and everything. It's like you have the episodes where they will just sit down and have a conversation, and then you have the episodes where it's a great big battle. That's something Game of Thrones has always done quite well. I'm not comparing Galactic Smugglers to Game of Thrones.
Oh, you can. It's okay.
But it's not tonally.
Well, we did have a hand go through someone's chest, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
And I did not destroy the figure.
Really?
No, that was the figure you sent us. And I did not drill a hole in him. I actually did that all in post.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, yeah, I did send you a figure, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Was my figure in The Art of War?
No, it was in Hand of Death. Because Johnny was still the pilot in Art of War. And he was the temporary pilot. Kenny Rogers, and the hand flew through his chest at the very end of the episode.
And they killed Kenny.
Oh my God!
They killed Kenny. I tell you what, it's something I can recommend to anyone. It's just going through Galactic Smugglers from start to finish every now and again.
And forgive the first 3 episodes and just pretend, just know that it gets better after that.
But they're so enjoyable. They're so much fun.
Well, they've been fun writing. It was like when I first started doing brick filming, my main thing was this: can I tell a joke in about 30 seconds to a minute? That's about all I can animate it. And then I started thinking, hey, I could really write some stories here. And I tried to write something that the 12-year-old me would have enjoyed watching. But I've also, I guess I try to throw in jokes that adults will enjoy, but I've tried to make something that I thought younger me would have enjoyed. And I remember a show a long time ago with Star Blazers. I think it came out is also known as Battleship Yoshinda or something like that. And I always loved that show, and then a few other shows that came after. And I'm trying to put something together that had that sort of cool spaceness to it.
I think that's the perfect attitude to take when writing something like this as well. Is like, what would the 12-year-old me enjoy? It's so important to remember. It's like, especially when you're making Brick films, kids are going to be watching this, so you can't make it too serious, and you can't make it too kind of sweary. I think that's a fantastic approach.
Although the cheeky side of us would absolutely love to do a R-rated
an F-bomb
South Park type type of Brick film, to where we could just say whatever we really want to say but can't say.
Might not be good for our brand.
No, of course not. We have to stick to our somewhat clean channel.
Yeah, maybe it could be called diffusing the F-bomb or something.
Cool. Onto I guess your Flickr account. One of the pictures that really stood out, you did something called Studscape. It was just like wavy hills of studs.
Yes, on Flickr. Basically, whenever I have a quiet period at work, I will tend to load up Cinema 4D and just try and do something with Lego CGI that I haven't been able to do before, and something that I really wanted to do. And I remember it from one of Smeagol Studios' old films, Philip Heinrich. He made an Old Republic Star Wars Lego film, and in a couple of shots he did CGI that was kind of just a Lego landscape, and it looked so great, and I was never able to do it when I was 16. And then last year I just kind of had the thought, why don't I just try again now? And I managed to work it out in about an hour how to do it.
And it turned out beautiful. It was really, really lovely.
Thank you. I've tried to do. I've been sort of working with that, and hey, you might see some of that in a film at some point.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
That would be great. Hey, maybe we could use it in Galactic Smugglers too.
Hey, if you want it, you let me know.
Yeah, we loved all the cityscape stuff you did for the last one. I know you kind of reinvented what you had done before, but it just really worked for the shots of this Buffalo Skies landing.
I kind of repurposed the city from Squad 42 for Galactic Smugglers. I'm always happy to do stuff like that, because it's like get some new life out of all projects.
Nothing wrong with that. It worked.
Yeah, and I was, I'm always glad to help you guys with Galactic Smugglers and anything you do, really.
That's good, because we're always happy to have you help. And maybe you might come here and visit sometime, and you can actually work on it together with Dave.
I'd love to. Just light up the big bat signal in the sky.
right.
Do a big
with my face on it.
No, I'm going to light up the big lion bar signal in the sky.
Yes, there we go.
You back in the day, you held a couple of stop motion contests or Lego stop motion contests, and I'm trying to figure out if it was 2 or 3 of them, because I remember Zach Macias entered one with his Emperor's Guards or whatever, and I think he won that one, and that might have been one of the earlier ones.
That was the first one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I love that one that Zach did, because when he stabbed whatever the it's been a while since I've seen it, but the way the spear kind of shook after he did the stabbing, it was really cool.
Zach is he's one of those animators that I've always just looked at his work and thought, I'm never going to be able to do that. because he's so just his work is so smooth and crisp and lovely, and that video holds up today. I watched it quite recently, in fact, and it's like it holds up really well.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, some of those animation contests became quite popular. I think the second one did.
Which one was the second one? Was that the potato one? Or was that
I think it was the potato one.
Potato one.
That little monkey entered, and we watched her entry the other day, and it was just so cute because I think she was only 4, and her voice was just so high and cute and adorable. And
did I give her a prize at all? Did I give her an honorable?
You did give her an honorable mention, she was just thrilled. It was adorable. She just, and it's she had fun making it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Her videos have always been so cute as well.
Mm-hmm. She's lost a little interest.
Has she made any recent?
She's lost a little interest. She has another passion in her life right now that kind of overwhelms.
American Girl dolls. I think it would be a lot less expensive if she was back into the brick films, but.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I spent a fortune on Lego.
Yeah, American Girl dolls are expensive too, but no. She I think a couple of years ago was her last one. She did a couple for school projects, and which turned out really, really.
They were good.
They were really good. Yeah. So I'm sure she every once in a while. Right now, the older she gets and the higher grades, there's more homework and less time. So. It's what happens to a lot of people. They just don't really have the time to put into it. But I think she'll always have the interest, and we'll get back to it eventually.
And was the potato one, was that just another Lego animation contest? Was that the same one? It's sponsored by, was it Boinks?
Boinks, it might... Was it? Oh, gosh, I got to be honest, I don't remember. It was... I'm gonna go back through my.
Well, we always love
work it out.
We always love sponsorship opportunities, and was that something that you bought the copy of their software, or did they work out giving a free copy to the winner?
They decided. I can't even remember. I think I just asked them. I went to them and I said, would you be willing to sponsor my competition? And they were like, yeah, here's 3 passes to our iStop motion software, which is very generous of them.
That is very generous.
That's what we used to use in the beginning.
Yeah. I think it was the second Lego Stop Motion Festival. That was the one.
Okay.
It was the festival, I guess it was called.
And then, of course, you had the Squad 42 parody competition, which we won.
I think we did.
You won it, yes.
That one was fun to
hilarious.
do. Speaking of, one of the things, you were mentioning about the bridge, taking the one Star Wars vehicle under, and you had to destroy the bridge. Well, I had a similar situation with when the clone commander or whatever walks out of the room. He was a little too tall for the door. I was like, it's I had to just get him through the door some way or another, but he was a little too tall to fit through there, right? But that one was a fun one to make.
Yeah.
Although I think when I was looking at it, I believe I used the wrong torso for one of my clones. I think I used a Stormtrooper torso. So bad me.
I forgive you, Dave. I forgive you.
Well, we don't give the prize back. We're keeping it.
Yeah. keep the prize. It's
Thank you. Curious, back when you were animating, especially the Squad 42, where did you film all that?
On my bedroom floor.
Wow.
Animate on the floor. That's tough.
That's painful.
Well, I was quite I was a bit of a weird kid. I always used to like play in the mud a lot, and when you're until you're like a late teenager, it doesn't really start to hurt your knees.
Yeah, true that.
So at the time, it was like no problem, but especially I think in Juggernaut and some of the original Squad 42 films, you can just see my bed in the background. You can see under my bed, and you can see like there's a fireplace in the background that I just used as the back because I didn't know how to do green screen at the time, so I didn't put a green screen behind it. So there's some very basic green screening in Squad 42 2. And then, but before that, it was just like, whatever's in the background, that is the background. And it happened to be my bedroom floor. Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to go back and look at that Juggernaut just to look under the bed and all that.
Yeah, you can see
what camera did you use? Was that the DSLR camera you were using the entire time?
Yes, that was a Canon 400D.
And did you have a frame capture program, or were you just using the camera and taking pictures with the camera?
I was shooting completely blind.
Wow.
Wow.
All of them as well. Right up until the final Squad 42 film, they were all shot completely blind. I just put the camera there, focus, and just start animating. I kind of wish I had that sort of blasé attitude to quality control still, because at least I'd get something done.
I sort of miss my old days too, when I could get away with less quality.
Yeah. And then when the more time goes past, the more you realise it's like, you have to put a bit of time and effort into doing this. But I don't know. I miss the old days.
What did you edit with?
I used ULEAD Video Studio 10, which I'm not sure it even exists anymore. I think ULEAD was bought out by a company called Coral.
Okay. What do you edit these days?
You could probably get something similar, but Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro.
Okay. I use that too, but I don't like the whole subscription thing, but it is what it is.
It's frustrating, the subscription thing, because then you get a bill every year saying, please pay us £400 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's a rent.
It's a big blow, right?
Did you use a tripod back then, or did you just put your camera on the floor or whatnot?
Bit of both.
Okay.
I had a tiny little tripod that I used to use for the older Squad 42 films. Yeah, I think all of them.
Okay.
I've still got it lying around somewhere. But yeah, nothing. It wasn't too expensive. I mean, the even the camera I was using, it was the absolute baseline DSLR. I think it was a birthday Christmas present. I think because my birthday is 2 days after Christmas, so I managed to get joint presents.
Oh, nice.
So that was my joint present, and it was, I can't remember, it was something like £250 or something.
Mm. Didn't you try a webcam out once or twice and just were like,
Yeah, I just couldn't quite click with it. I mean, I completely understand the pros against using a DSLR, but I think after using a DSLR for so many years, and then you do have to sacrifice a bit of image quality to go back to a webcam. You can do so much more with it. You can get like right into a Lego set and focus up close and not have to worry about building the set around the camera. But at the same time, I'm a bit of an image freak, so I really like that quality that you get with the DSLR of all the depth of field. And I started animating with a webcam, and the style was a bit too different to what I'd worked with before to keep me happy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you keep your Lego? Are they all in your room?
Until recently, most of it is now in the loft, in the attic. But there's a lot of it. There's too much of it. I'm still kind of surrounded by it, but like probably 75% of it is now in the attic.
Ah, and is it all sorted like in?
No.
No.
No. I mean, I've got a little set of drawers that's in my room, just a much smaller set. Most of it is in these great big drawers, and it's completely mixed. But then I've got a little set of drawers that are organised into mostly minifigures. So there's one for Clone Army soldiers, there's one for other Star Wars, and then more for sort of other random things. But that's about as far as my organisation goes.
You know, it's funny. I should have brought this up before, but voicing, because I said I'm so embarrassed listening to myself voice the first 3 episodes of Galactic Smugglers as Doc. There was this one kid back in the day, a long time ago, and he used to like me to voice his guy characters. Like, instead of having Dave do it, which would have made sense, he had me do it. so it wasn't, so that was like, it was almost like foreshadowing. Oh, you're going to be voicing another guy in the future in your own series. It was just a very odd thing.
Yeah, I can understand the intention that maybe he has.
I mean, I still put on like a low voice as much as I could, so it's like I tried to sound like a guy.
Well, I think probably what it was less about the fact that whether or not you sounded like a guy, but probably to do with the fact that you're just so approachable and you're so easy to talk to. So he probably was too scared to ask Dave. I'm not saying that Dave is unapproachable, but
I didn't used to do any social media. It was all Kim back in the day.
I'm the one that talked to everybody, because YouTube was very social back then. So I used to talk to everybody.
Yeah, well, I think that's why people asked you for things like that. Because you're just a lot of what I remember of YouTube is that people would ask you to do something because you were there, you know.
Right.
Like, a lot of people would ask me to do voice acting, not because I sounded anything like a clone trooper. I had like a little high English accent, but just because it's like, well, they knew me, and yeah, I guess maybe they wanted.
And nowadays, the only time people ask me is because I'm one of the few female voice actors around. True. Not that I am good, but at least we have good recording equipment, and that's it.
You are good. You are good.
No.
Better than me.
But thank you.
Yeah. When you were making your brick films, did you do storyboards or anything, or was it just a script and you just kind of did it all in your head?
Most of it was just in my head. Mm-hmm. I remember doing a bit of storyboarding for Squad 42-5, but I'm not sure I ever stuck to it. The problem I always have is that I think through my ideas too quickly. It's part of the reason why I haven't really released anything in the last few years, because every time I get an idea on doing something, and then it's just left entirely to my own devices, I'll just keep rethinking it while I'm making it. And because I keep rethinking it, I never get it done. So it's, and I think an important quality when you're making a stop motion is that you need to settle on what it is you're going to do. So it's, I think for a lot of people find storyboarding very useful. I think particularly when you're working with other people, storyboarding is quite important.
Right.
When I'm doing it for myself, it's like I would have to really push myself to do it. When I'm doing it with other people, I've often done storyboarding.
Do you draw well?
Depends on the day.
I know Sean, Filmy Guy, is just an incredible artist in general, and he's getting a lot of storyboard work.
Not surprised.
So
yeah, he's
really
very
cool.
talented. So when you were brick filming, or when you're working now, do you listen to music or podcast, TV, or anything while you're editing or doing CGI work?
A lot of podcasts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the other day I managed to get through, I was animating for something like 12 hours solid one day, and I think I just listened through all of your podcasts from start to finish.
Oh, well, thank you.
And there's something about, particularly, because brick filming, it's popular, but it's still pretty niche in a way.
Right.
So, and again, coming back to why I find this podcast so lovely, is that it's like, actually hearing about people who do it and do it well, and like really are invested in doing it, and hearing their approaches. Like the other day, you were interviewing Pig Animation, and David Pickett. Is that right?
Yep, David Pickett and David Pagano.
Pagano and Pickett.
The two D's, the two P's.
Yes, and they were talking about their animation book that they'd just written, and the way they were describing it, it's like, oh, actually, this sounds great. So I bought the copy while I was listening to the podcast.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
it's a really great book.
Fantastic book.
Yeah, and I've been reading through it, and it's like, there's some really good info in there that even, I was doing stop motions for years, and it never occurred to me to do a lot of this stuff that they do. That's a recommendation I'd definitely make anyone who's interested in brick filming. That book is great.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have that a long time ago, but definitely better late than never. There's great tips for everybody of all ages. So
exactly, absolutely. But that's why I've sort of come back to YouTube recently, because it does feel like there's an almost like a resurgence in interest in brick filming recently. Do you feel that?
We've kind of been into it all along, although from 2014 to 16, we were just pretty much doing the Oyo videos, so we kind of sort of lost touch, and I think a lot of our subscribers kind of lost us too during that phase. So even though we've been in it all along, yeah, I guess there might have been just a little bit of a dip kind of after 2012, 13, and then maybe it's picking back up now.
I think, at least just my theory, I think the release of new Star Wars films has kind of fueled interest in brick filming. I feel like Lego Star Wars is pretty much quite an important foundation in terms of like just the number of people who do brick filming. How popular Star Wars is at the time is quite important to the number of how many people are doing brick filming. That's just my thoughts on it.
It's kind of taking you back to your beginning roots again. It's kind of like, like a new.
I would never have made brick films if it hadn't been for the Star Wars prequel films. As much as anyone, rags on those films, they are important to a lot of people. They're not great, but they are what they are.
I still enjoyed them. No, they weren't as great as the first trilogy, but how about some heresy? I actually think Revenge of the Sith's better than 7, but that's heresy. We're going to get a big battle.
I don't agree, but I completely respect what you mean.
I think there was something I didn't like about the Starkiller base. It was just like, this is too much of the Death Star on steroids.
Because say what you like about the prequel trilogy, it's something different.
Yeah, it has a different feel.
And that's becoming rarer and rarer these days. And it's like The Force Awakens. I loved The Force Awakens. I thought it was just such quality filmmaking, and it's just got so much. It's very enjoyable, and it's very fun, and it feels like a really good progression of that universe. But it is a New Hope. It is a New Hope again. I think The Last Jedi, a lot of people are saying it's just going to be The Empire Strikes Back again. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be something quite different.
And I'm definitely looking forward to the Han Solo one, and definitely the Obi-Wan one coming out.
Obi-Wan one.
As long as Ewan McGregor's in it, Ewan McGregor better be in it. He is Obi-Wan now.
They would be mad not to get it in there.
It's like, why bother making it?
Exactly. Yeah. No. I think I'm curious about the Han Solo one. I think I'm more interested now that they've got Ron Howard on board, and he's more interested in seeing it. Probably less interested in the project, but more interested in seeing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love Ron Howard, I think. I
think the other directors were going to try going a little too much on the comedy route too. From what I've heard.
Well, that's that was the behind the scenes gossip, I guess you could say. They were basically making 21 Jump Street in space. Which is like, I think that's a shame if that's what they were doing, because the Lego movie is so awesome. Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
And that was their their baby, you know. And if they did something more like that, that would make sense to me. But apparently the way they were filming it was they were literally just setting up 3 cameras, like on a tripod, and saying action. It's like, that's not what a Star Wars film should be.
Right, you have certain expectations.
You do.
So, yeah, I agree. Curious, have you ever been recognized out in public anywhere?
Yes, I have. Once.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think the kid was about 9, and his dad told him who I was, and he kind of froze up and went quiet. Mm-hmm. It was sweet. It was cute. The thing is, I didn't know what to do in that situation either, because it was like, a fan? I have fans? It's like, that always kind of disarms me. The fact that there are, I mean, a lot of the comments I get on Squad 42 now are people saying crazy things like, oh, OMG, Squad 42, this is my childhood. And it's like, that's weird, because it was my childhood, you know?
Right.
And it's always strange to me that there's, like, in a nice way. I'm not complaining at all. It's just odd that there are, you know, grown men and women now who are like, oh, this was my childhood. I loved these films when I was little. It's like, I made them when I was little.
Right, yeah, that would be kind of weird. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Yeah. It's like, oh, we used to watch, you know, I grew up watching your things. And
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So now we always got, our son was you and Forrest and Thomas, Blob Studios. You were the big 3 for him. So you were the 3 names that he always, you know, got gaga over and you know.
I think he had a conversation in school, and spugesdu came up as, oh yeah, I've heard of him. Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Oh, okay, I'll watch his videos.
Like, oh, my mom is friends with, you know, him. Yeah. So that was like a big cool thing to them. Yeah.
It's a funny old profession we hold, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And we've never been recognized in public.
Once. Oh. No, we went to the up in Raleigh.
Oh yeah, we were.
One of the youngsters there, who's now an adult now, recognized us. True. He did some, you know, detective work. It's like, they're coming to the festival and they got this new camera. So he came up and was like,
there's 4 of us.
Are you Big Monkey of the Four Monkeys? I was like, you got me. You're a really nice kid. So I think
that's kind of cute. That's
it
cute.
Was
as long
cute,
as it's not like the grizzly old man coming up and saying, "You 4 monkeys."
Yeah.
Sign my T-shirt.
I got some candy in the van.
In the van, I'll take you to the river.
I got this real great stop motion I wants to show you.
Free hugs. I know you like hugs. Free hugs.
I think we got a brick film here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I saw pictures on your Facebook, and I noticed that you met the director of Rogue One, Gareth Edwards. I mean, how awesome and amazing is that? How did that happen?
That was I went to a weekend course hosted by a chap called Colin Gowdy, who is the editor of Rogue One. Lovely fellow. There was a pub trip after the course had finished. It was like a 7-hour course in central London. So informative, and he was so generous with all his information, like behind the scenes tidbits about all the various films he'd worked on, including Rogue One. And we got chatting in the pub, and we discovered that there was this mutual love of Lego Star Wars. I sent him Squad 42, thinking nothing of it. He gave me his email address, and sent him Squad 42. And he emailed me back, and he'd sent it to Gareth Edwards and half the people at Industrial Light and Magic, it seemed, because he was just so entertained by it.
Wow.
And yeah, and we chatted for a bit about Lego Star Wars again on emails and like comparing Lego collections. His would put most people's to shame, I think. But that's just part of working at Lucasfilm.
Right.
And he invited me to this get together in London, and I went to that, and Gareth Edwards was there, and got to chat to him a bit about Rogue One and Godzilla, and networking is so valuable sometimes because you never know who you'll meet.
But that's unbelievable. How surreal was that? I mean, oh my God, talking to Gareth Edwards.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know Gareth Edwards was going to be there. So I walked into the pub and Colin Gaudius sat there with Gareth Edwards. And I've been following Gareth Edwards' career since 2010 when he produced this independent film called Monsters. And so I just had to stand there and fight the urge just to walk out again. It was really special. It was great.
That's amazing. Wow, what an amazing experience. And yes, the pictures captured it beautifully, so I enjoyed seeing that. So were you nervous talking to him?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the lovely thing about Colin is that he's just he puts you at ease so much. He basically just introduced me to Gareth.
Gareth, meet Gareth.
Gareth, meet Gareth. This is Rogue One Gareth, and this is Lego Gareth. That's how we were known for that evening.
Wow.
And it was great. You know, hey, if I get to mingle with Lucasfilm, I'm happy to be known as Lego Gareth to do it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Wow, that is just fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, and I met some other really lovely people there as well, and it's just networking. Can't beat it.
Right, and you have his email address, and he has yours. Okay.
Not Gareth Edwards though. I don't have Gareth Edwards' email.
You know, you're just one. What is it? One.
I'm one.
What's the word?
Angle, I guess.
No, what's the word? Kevin Bacon. 7
degrees of separation.
Right, degree of separation. Degree. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I've got 1 and 2 degrees with a lot of people, and a lot's because of brick filming. It, the directors that got fired. The director got fired of the Han Solo one, the Lego movie. They watched our video because we entered the rebrick contest.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And then I talked to the. Was it the director?
Oh, the director of the Lego Mentary or documentary or whatever. That had it was 80% Lego and 20% brick film type stuff. It was the one that what's his name? That's from Ozark. He narrated it. The actor that was in Silver Spoons. Can't remember his name.
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman, yeah.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, he narrated that. The director.
Was that Daniel Grunge or something like that?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, that was cool talking to him.
Do you do any creative writing? Or write any screenplays yourself these days?
A little bit. I've done quite a lot of. I've done sort of marking on other people's scripts because they know I did quite a bit of script writing at university. And the scripts I wrote at university, they will probably never see the light of day, but they always got quite a good response. I've written a script at the moment that I'm working on. Not as much as I used to. I did do quite a lot. I was quite a writer when I was at school, but not so much these days. Not so much. You kind of lose time to do it when all your work is kind of commission work.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time when you're doing commission work, somebody else will have written the script already. So, I mean, I'm not the best writer, so I'm happy to let someone else do that most of the time.
Yeah, I'm kind of on that same thing. I've got some, I think, great ideas, but to actually kind of get the skeleton built, put all the flesh on the skeleton, all the little dialogue and all that kind of stuff, I'm not so good at that. I got great grand ideas, but not the little, small, minute details.
The foundations are there, but you need someone's skill built on top of it. Yeah.
That's why it's a hobby.
Yes.
But it is fun to tell little stories and to be able to express yourself in something that other people are interested in watching. So
exactly, I think at the end of the day, it's not really it's far less about the audience who's going to see it than just it being something for you to just express yourself. I used to make stop motions because I loved doing it, and then when it became kind of something that was a bit of a burden, I guess, online, it stopped being fun, and so I stopped making them. I think if you lose sight of that, that's, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It should always be about you having fun and you doing what you want to do, and expressing yourself. So
exactly, and that's why at the moment I'm working quite avidly on a new animation for YouTube, and I feel like now is the right time because all those haters back in the day. The thing about haters is that they got no patience, so they've all gone. All the people who used to hate on, who used to send me sort of like nasty messages and things, they've all left. They've all gone, and YouTube it's much smaller. The audience that I'm looking at now, it's like I posted a few videos recently, and they don't hit more than a few hundred views. But in a way, that's like a huge relief. It's very nice to be kind of free to do what I want now, rather than kind of bound by this audience of tens of thousands of people.
yeah, I agree. And I
don't want to sound ungrateful for that.
YouTube is different though. You release something, and unless you're, really, really huge, it doesn't get out to the people like it used to. Which it does. It definitely is a relief not to have to worry about that. But I got to quote Forrest again, because he probably had the best attitude I've ever heard in my entire life. Is that he used to get a lot of haters and nasty comments, and his mindset was, these haters, all they're doing is posting a hateful comment, but at least they're commenting on his video. But he's actually produced a film, so...
all they made was a comment.
Right. All they made was a comment, but he made a film. And it's like, wow, that's just like the best attitude ever. You really just... It's hard, and it might be hurtful sometimes to see those things, but you really have to just not let them get to you. It's their problem if they're making a hateful comment. It's not yours.
He's absolutely right as
well. But at least they watched it, and they still watched, and they still gave you a view because they must have watched it. If you're leaving a comment, it's like, well, hey, thanks for the comment and thanks for the view. So,
absolutely, I think that was a really great interview you did with Forrest as well.
We were pretty happy with that.
He's full of wisdom.
He was super generous and just so nice, and it was nice that we got to know him, and for everybody to know him on a more personal level, and just to realize what a great guy he is.
Yeah.
In addition to his amazing talent. So
yeah.
Well, you've definitely been a wonderful guest. I think we've nearly taken up 2 hours of your time. It'll be nearly a 2-hour podcast. We'll cut out a little the front and the back, but it's been a total pleasure finally being able to just speak with you on this level.
Yes, we'll have to do this more often.
Lovely.
Absolutely. We have to do this more often.
Hey, I mean, if you ever decide to do like group chats or something with various different Brickfilmers and like set up a topic or something, I'd be very happy to take part. But this has been fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you. We really appreciate it, and look forward to what you will be releasing. Are you making that public or not? I don't want to. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Okay.
But it's Lego Star Wars focused, and if I actually get it done, hopefully it will be this year.
That's
so
awesome.
Fingers crossed. But I don't want to promise anything.
No worries. We will look forward to whatever you do, whether it's brick filming and or anything else you're working on.
I can't wait till we can finally watch Trigger.
Yeah. Well, trailer on my website, and I'll send you guys a cheeky private link to that.
That would be
Sweet.
Wonderful, and we also look forward to you visiting.
Yes, we will make it happen.
The invitations.
You can direct
open.
the expose on us.
Right, from the neck down.
Oh
No, we got to have it where we come out of the closet.
No.
We'll have the distorted voices and the
masks
pixels
on.
over the face or
Right.
whatnot.
Yeah. We could all wear monkey masks.
Yeah, that would be fun. We have one. Just need to get a couple
hard
more.
to animate with the mask on.
And the voice distorter over your mouth as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
And
thank you so much for having me on.
And thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Too.
All right. Take care, hon.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much to Gareth for being incredibly generous with his time, and thanks to everyone who stuck with us through this entire podcast. Please check out our sponsors and partners on the Brickfilmers Guild homepage, and don't forget to check out spugesdu's amazing brick films on his YouTube channel. We want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, spugesdu, Something's Awry Productions, Dude Brick, and Frame 5 Studios. We love you guys. You rock. If you would like to sponsor one of our podcasts, please contact me through one of our social media sites. We'd also like to thank Kevin MacLeod for his wonderful music, which we use for our podcast and in our brick films. Also, if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, please rate and comment. We'd really appreciate that. So, until next time, bye y'all.